Welcome to our podcast. In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that's both fascinating and full of surprises. Stick around until the end. You might just discover a whole new perspective of your own. And now, without further ado, let's get started.
Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, okay, so I was reading about this wild book by a Japanese emergency doctor, and his whole argument is that humans don't actually die. Can we talk about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the guy's name is Naoki Yamagi. He's a clinician at Tokyo University, worked in the ER and intensive care for decades, and he literally wrote a book called Humans Do Not Die.
Wait, hold on. A frontline doctor is saying this? That's not what you usually hear from scientists, man. What's his angle here?
Right. But he's not just throwing out wild theories. The guy's basing this on actual clinical encounters, He spent years seeing patients between life and death, so his conclusions come from real experience, not just armchair speculation.
Okay, so give me some examples. What phenomena actually convinced him of this? What did he see?
So he reports several things that kept showing up. Near-death experiences, what he calls soul emergence, this slow-motion perception thing during danger, and even, get this, memory transfer after organ transplants.
Wait, hold on. Memory transfer? Like a heart transplant patient starts remembering the donor's memories? That's a real thing?
Yeah. According to him, parts of the donor's memories sometimes show up in the recipient. He calls it a medical mystery that regular medicine just can't explain.
That's insane. I mean, we've heard stories about that, but a doctor saying he sees it regularly? Okay, tell me about the slow motion thing. That's wild.
So he describes this phenomenon where during extreme danger, people perceive everything as happening in slow-mo, like watching a car creeping toward them in slow-mo. He says it's super common in trauma patients.
I totally get that, actually. I feel like my brain does that sometimes when I almost fall or something. But he's seeing this clinically, right? Not just people telling him stories.
Yeah, he encountered it repeatedly in emergency cases. So it's not like one random anecdote. It's a pattern he kept observing in the ER.
Okay, but what's his core argument? How does he get from these phenomena to saying humans don't die? That's a huge leap.
Two main things. First, he had a near-death experience as a kid, severe head injury, brain hemorrhage, coma, and he says that gave him the ability to actually perceive other people's souls. Second, he points to how consistent NDE reports are across people, plus all these other phenomena, and argues they all point to something continuing after death.
Wait, he claims he can actually see other people's souls? How does he describe that?
So, after his childhood injury, he says he developed this capacity to see what he calls souls. He describes them as appearing to float above the body, kind of aligned with it, but also separate. And when the person's about to die, the soul starts to detach. The face gets blurred, and the soul literally lifts away.
He literally watched souls leaving bodies in the ER? That's a heavy claim, man. How does he connect that to near-death experiences?
He argues that NDEs aren't just hallucinations or dreams. They're actual perceptions of another reality that becomes accessible when the soul loosens its connection to the body. This happens during serious illness, sleep, or when death is approaching.
So he's saying NDEs can start way before someone actually dies? Like days or weeks before? That seems backwards, doesn't it?
Exactly. He says some people report NDE-type experiences a week or even a month before they die, and sometimes while they're totally conscious. He uses that to argue it's not just a dying brain having hallucinations.
And he says these NDE scenes are consistent across people, like gardens, dead relatives, and stuff, not random dream content.
Right. He stresses that NDE imagery is remarkably similar across different people and overwhelmingly positive, unlike typical dreams. Plus, people almost never forget NDEs, unlike most dreams which fade away.
That connects to his idea that the soul stores memory differently than the brain, right?
Yeah, exactly. he suggests that soul memory can record everything in detail without the brain's shortcuts. So NDE memories stay precise and unforgettable, whereas brain memory compresses things and prioritizes emotional stuff.
Oh, that's interesting. So brain memory is like compressed, but soul memory is full fidelity, you know?
Exactly. He points to survivors who can recount exact conversations, landscapes, sequences from NDEs years later. That persistence is his evidence that there's a different kind of memory happening.
That's bang. Okay, what about time? People always say NDEs feel like hours happen in a second. Does he talk about that?
Yeah, he does. He says, in the NDE realm, time seems to stop. The scenes are always daytime. The sun's frozen in place. And he argues that time might actually be a property of the three-dimensional physical world, not something the soul experiences.
So it's like a frozen moment. No clock, no hours passing. It's like a tableau or something. That's both poetic and weirdly scientific at the same time.
He does mix poetic description with clinical observation, and that tension is actually what made the book controversial, but also really attention-grabbing, according to what I read.
Controversial how? Did scientists come after him?
Surprisingly, not as much as you'd think. The text says he got a lot of attention, but actually many physicians reportedly supported him, saying they'd seen similar phenomena themselves. So the medical community was mostly curious or supportive, not just dismissive.
Maybe people actually working in the ER are more used to weird anomalies than people in labs, you know? He also talks about the limits of modern medicine, right?
Yeah, he argues that medicine treats symptoms and supports the immune system, but often doesn't actually understand the real mechanisms of disease. Sometimes recovery is just the patient's own system doing its thing, or like some mysterious force deciding whether they live or die.
So he's saying whether someone survives isn't just about the doctor's skill? That's pretty bold.
He does. He suggests survival can depend on the patient's will or some mysterious force that wants them to keep going, which he connects to ideas like destiny or the Akashic records.
Wait, Akashic records. He's bringing in esoteric concepts too? This is getting really layered.
Yeah, so he links his observations to the Akashic record idea, which is like an informational field or cosmic database that's constantly raining knowledge down on everyone, and certain people or souls can tap into it if they're tuned in.
So like the knowledge is falling on everyone's head, but you only get it if you notice it. Kind of like intuition versus just being oblivious.
Exactly. He uses this metaphor about how the data is available to all, but only prepared minds or liberated souls can actually perceive and use it. That's why innovators like Einstein might suddenly have these flashes of insight. He calls that intuition, but he's saying it's really contact with this larger informational field.
So he's putting together intuition, creativity, NDEs, and clinical anomalies into one framework? Like all of it is the soul accessing this information field. Excited?
Very ambitious. And he also brings in quantum mechanics. He argues it undermines the old, strict material versus spiritual split, suggesting spirit and matter are just different states of the same underlying reality, like water and ice.
The quantum dissolves dualism angle. But he's not doing the math, right? He's using quantum mechanics philosophically?
Correct. He uses the conceptual upheaval in physics to argue that the old strict material versus spiritual split might not actually hold up, and that spiritual causes could influence physical outcomes.
That can sound like pseudoscience if you're not careful. Does the text warn against overreaching with quantum mechanics?
Yeah, he's actually cautious about it. He points out that science itself is incomplete and sometimes gets commercialized, but he urges openness rather than just dismissing things science can't explain.
Okay, so keep an open mind, but stay critical. Did he mention placebo effects as evidence of the mind's power?
Yeah, he cites placebo and nocebo effects. Belief actually changes outcomes, which he interprets as evidence that inner forces, maybe soul-level processes, can influence physical healing.
I like that. It's grounded in stuff we already know happens. But what about practical implications? Does he tell clinicians to change how they practice?
He seems to urge humility, Don't over-rely on medicines, respect mysterious forces, acknowledge patients' inner lives. He warns against treating medicine like it's omnipotent.
That's actually refreshing. A doctor saying we don't have all the answers and pushing for more human-centered care. Did the book get popular?
Yeah, it became a bestseller, caused quite a sensation. Media interviewed him, and apparently a lot of colleagues resonated with his experiences.
Confused. Any serious pushback, though? Skeptics calling him out, thinking, because that usually happens with claims like this.
Surprisingly little direct professional criticism, actually. Instead, many clinicians privately acknowledged having seen similar anomalous cases, so the reaction was more like curiosity than outright condemnation.
All right. What are the main takeaways from this book? Rapid fire. Immortality, soul continuity, the Akashic thing.
So he's arguing that the soul persists beyond bodily death. NDEs are actual perceptions of another reality, not hallucinations. Inner mill and mysterious forces affect survival, and science should be open to these phenomena.
And he's backing it all up with decades of ER work, plus his own near-death experience that supposedly expanded his perception. It's compelling, as a story, at least.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe. Your support really keeps me motivated to create even better podcast episodes packed with valuable insights and knowledge to share with you all.